Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 4 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the ABR 223, which was one of the most powerful weapons in the Black Ops 4 beta, and it's modeled after the real-life Steyr AUG, which is a weapon that I happen to love. So I was really hoping that when I went into the ABR 223 that it would be an amazing weapon in the final game, and that it would give me all these nostalgic AUG feelings. Unfortunately, that's not really the case. However, it is a really unique weapon, hence the length of this episode. There's a lot of strange attachment combinations to go through, a lot of testing, and it's kind of a monster in Blackout. So today's episode is going to be very, very in-depth because it's not a simple topic. Let's start off with one part of this weapon that is very simple, which is its damage profile. It'll deal 38 damage up close, and then decrease down to a minimum of 32 damage at range, meaning that it will take between 4 and 5 shots to kill, and this is a little bit low on damage for burst rifles. Typically, you're looking for burst rifles that can get a one burst kill, or DMRs that do a lot of damage like the Auger. However, the ABR is just not that weapon. This is better than assault rifles, but not significantly better. It's a little bit low for its class, and it's always going to be a 2-burst kill, even with headshots, because you only get a 10% bit of bonus damage for shooting somebody in the head, which doesn't put you over a critical point up close or at long range, with the exception of if you run into somebody that has 200 health and you get headshots only, then in theory you can kill them one shot faster, but again, that's probably not worth going for in that scenario. It's a little bit unique. The rate of fire on this weapon is also unique at 800 rounds per minute. That is the rate of fire of the burst, or how fast the 3 rounds come out of the end of your gun, and that's quite fast for rifles in Black Ops 4. That's faster than most of the submachine guns. The burst delay on the weapon is 250 milliseconds. Now, I have got quite a few comments in my video referencing Exclusive Aces videos on things, and I'm aware that he got a very different number there, but I did the testing myself. I measured the clips 3 times to make sure I'm not going crazy, but the burst delay that I got was 250 milliseconds in multiple instances. If it's wrong, if it's incorrect, don't worry about it. It's not the most important part of this weapon by far. So when it comes to time to kill, the weapon is unfortunately not very competitive in terms of time to kill. You can't get a 1-burst kill, so you always have that minimum baseline burst delay before you get your next shot. That causes an increased time to kill on a weapon that already takes 4 shots to kill and doesn't shoot insanely fast. So your overall time to kill is going to be a little bit low. It may feel better because this is a good feeling weapon. It's got a lot of good handling attributes, which we're about to get into. But overall in the game, there are many weapons that kill much faster. The 4-shot range is also a little bit closer than you would think, at about 15 meters. Now, of course, the 2-burst range is infinite. Now, you can just kill somebody in 2 bursts regardless of how far away they are, if, of course, your whole burst hits. But the actual mathematical 4-shot range isn't that impressive. However, what is impressive is putting a suppressor on the weapon only causes a 10% decrease in range. So the suppressor is one of the best attachments for the ABR. 10% is negligible for not making noise and staying off the radar. Not a lot of people run suppressors in Black Ops 4, so trading in 10% of range on a weapon that's already always 2 bursts to kill makes no difference to me, and I would recommend the suppressor almost all the time, or at least as long as you have an attachment slot for it. The built-in optics on the ABR are my favorite in the entire class of tactical rifles in this game. They're clean. I've got nice vertical marks to kind of get an idea of my recoil. They're not too bulky on the sides, but they are a little bit bulky. However, I don't think the default optics are the best for the weapon. I had by far the best results using the ELO sight, which I've got correct this time. That's the lowest zoom in the game, the little 1x, the tiny little one that you don't even get any magnification on and comes with a blue dot. I know I called the holographic sight in the previous episode the ELO. That's because it used to be the ELO tech in Black Ops 2. There's too many Call of Duty games and they run their sights together. But the lowest zoom sight is the way to go here, because I'm ultimately going to end up recommending this as a close quarters weapon. On the topic of sights, there is a unique combination that I found works extraordinarily well in hardcore mode. The ABR just one-shots people all over the map in hardcore, so running the ABR plus thermal sights and a suppressor is pretty much godly. I was just able to run trains on kids with this. I was able to react fast, my hip fire was workable, I was able to shoot people at range. Very few people could challenge me with this class in hardcore, and I was very, very happy with its overall performance. So if you're going to play hardcore with with the ABR, I strongly recommend the thermal sight. In core mode, I think the thermal sight's going to put you on the struggle bus. When it comes to the recoil is not low enough to be long range effective without the grip. You can see some tests here on screen that show with and without the foregrip. The foregrip significantly tightens up your burst pattern, and that might not look that crazy on the screen right there, but the extra couple of inches of difference is the difference between hitting somebody in the head 3 times between a head glitch and hitting them twice and not having them die. It can make a big difference, and in my overall experience, the grip is one of the better attachments for this weapon and definitely worth it. The base ABR is pretty bad for hipfire, just most burst weapons tend to be that way, so that shouldn't be a surprise, but it's way better with Laser Sight 1 or Laser Sight 2. You can see the comparison on the screen between the regular, the Laser Sight, and the Laser Sight 2. Now, Laser Sight 2 does not tighten up your hipfire more than Laser Sight 1. What it does do is allow you to have no penalty while moving, and given if you're doing close quarters combat, you're almost certainly going to be moving, so that's kind of nice. But as far as what is better economy on the weapon, like what are you going to get the best performance for your points with, Laser Sight 1 will probably get the job done, and it's something I'm going to end up recommending later. People, when I was playing multiplayer, were not prepared for me to use the Laser Sight with the ABR. They were just completely, they were getting world starred. They had no idea how this guy with his burst rifle was being so accurate, because you don't even think about burst rifles as being dangerous in close quarters combat. In Call of Duty, you instinctively ignore that and think that these people are potatoes and go in for flashy kills and stuff, but it worked very, very well for me. Aim down sights time is 285 milliseconds, which is standard for the tactical rifle class, pretty similar to assault rifles and nothing special. Quick draw helps, but it's not a tremendous help. It took it down to 250 milliseconds when I measured it, which seemed kind of poopy, to be honest. I use it on some classes just to decrease my time to kill a little bit, but probably not the overall best attachment for the weapon, especially given the fact that I'm going to end up recommending it either with laser sight or head glitching, depending on which one you want to do. Reload time is 1.7 seconds, which is just a touch slow. It's not slow, it's not traditionally slow, but it's slow enough to get you caught out. Be a little bit careful when you're reloading, and you will be reloading often because it takes quite a few shots to kill. And next up, I want to talk about stock. Not stocks and bonds or stock in a fish pond, but the stock attachment on the weapon. Stock 1 is nice, and you can again see the comparisons on the screen between the regular ABR or the ABR with stock versus stock 2. Stock 1 is probably your best bang for overall like points per benefit. It gives you a lot of ability to strafe. However, if you run Stock 2 and Skulker, it's super fun to use. Stock 2 is just 100% move speed, left, right, when you're aiming down sights, it doesn't matter. And when you run Skulker, you can crawl and prone super fast and stack that with Stock 2. I'm getting my stacks and stocks like stackup.org mixed up, and it gets way crazy. You can crouch walk while aim down sights around corners and completely surprise people. It's probably not the overall best strategy, but it is a fun strategy. And one other unique thing about Stock 2, probably more beneficial in my opinion than the whole faster strafing, is that it allows you to change stances without having to un-aim down sights. You can peek in and out of head glitches, you can go prone, you can stand back up, and do a lot of nice things like that. If you want to camp, paradoxically, stock is not a bad choice because it allows you to move in and out of head glitches very, very quickly. Next up, let's talk about the operator mod on the ABR. It's a little bit complicated, but in short, the operator mod increases the rate of fire and lowers the burst delay after every single burst that you fire. You can hold down the trigger, it'll do this automatically. However, your first burst is still going to be more or less identical to where it was before. So your rate of fire is going to start out at about 800 rounds per minute, and then by the time you reach the end of your magazine, you're going to be at 1100 rounds per minute, which is really, really fast, but you have to go through the entire thing full auto to get there. Your delay, I found out, is a little bit improved immediately. I measured the first burst delay with this at being 220 milliseconds, so a little faster than what we discussed earlier. And the delay end goes down somewhere less than 75 milliseconds, which is very fast, and it was getting difficult to accurately measure, and also it was moving so fast I was getting errors with frame rounding on one side or the other. But mentally, an easy way to think about it is near the end of your mag, it's almost going to fire full auto. It's just going to spam super, super fast. Your overall rate of fire on this weapon is 666 rounds per minute. Now that's overall including the acceleration, including the burst delays, which significantly slow everything down. So if you wanted to think about how it would compare like on average to a rifle, if it were translated to rifle terms, it would be 666 rounds per minute, which isn't that impressive. And in my opinion, the operator mod isn't a good choice for the ABR because you're never shooting it long enough to work up to full auto. In 1v1 situations, it's pretty much not going to help you at all. It may actually hinder you because it'll change the way you track. Instead of getting distinct bursts, you'll just kind of hold down the trigger and spray. And any gunfight that's so long that you actually burn through your entire mag to more or less go full auto is probably not a gunfight that you should have picked with the ABR. It's a little bit helpful up close if you just want to spam people, but overall I do not recommend the operator mod for this weapon. When it comes to my overall rating for the ABR, at least for multiplayer, we're going to talk about Blackout in a second, I think the ABR is usable, and I think it's the best close quarters combat burst weapon, or best CQC tactical rifle, but it's overall not great. This isn't a fantastic weapon, this isn't a weapon that has a lot of strengths that are easy to work with. Even though it may look cool and feel good, it's just not the best. There are some unique uses for it. I've got 3 classes here for you today. You have the best close quarters class set up. You can run the ELO sight for low zoom, quick draw for faster reaction if you need it, stock, suppressor, and just the regular laser sight. This gives you a big boost to just about every single mobility aspect of the weapon and allows it to work very, very well in close quarters combat. If you want to go at ranged, I had the best results using the Recon or 2x sight, a suppressor because it doesn't really matter and I just want to stay off the radar, extended mags because it takes a lot of shots to kill, I need the ammo, and finally the foregrip so that it will be accurate enough so that I don't have to waste too many shots and I can almost always 2-burst people. That class setup worked really, really well for me. And we have finally the snakes only class. If you guys really want to play around with stock 1 and 2, I would run ELO suppressor, stock 1 and 2, and skulker, and with that way you can just prone and crouch and snake all over the map, maybe in search and destroy or something, and you can do some unique things with this class. I don't think it's the best, but it certainly can be fun to change up the monotony of the game. Now, all of that was for multiplayer. When it comes to Blackout, the ABR 223 is an entirely different beast. And after playing a lot of Blackout and trying it myself and reading what other people have to say, I am of the opinion that the ABR 223 is one of the best weapons in Blackout, and it is way better in Blackout than it is in multiplayer. I know that in my initial Blackout videos I said that you should avoid all burst rifles, but I was just plain mistaken. This one is a monster and you should give it a hug and love it and train it and let it be your monster anytime you get the chance. It has high damage, or higher than rifles in the game. It has long range, good ballistics, and it has very low recoil for a burst rifle. So the auger has a bit of recoil in Blackout, more than a default rifle that is, and the swordfish is nearly unusable. That'll be a fun episode coming up. However, the recoil on the ABR is so low, I can use it at ranges where I would normally be using an ICR, and I have not been able to test this, so do not take it as the gospel true, but I suspect that the recoil for the ABR in Blackout is lower than it is in normal multiplayer. On top of that, there's several attachments you can add to the ABR in Blackout, such as the stock, which reduces recoil further, and you can add the grip to it, which allows you to reduce your idle sway, which is another small problem that you run into in multiplayer. And the performance here is just completely different. It works really well with a suppressor, surprisingly. I'm a big long barrel fangirl. I like my long barrels on anything I can get them on. However, picking up the ABR operator mod with a suppressor and with the 4x sight, which is what I'm recommending here, is a very good combination. I didn't think that I would like this gun with long-range zoom sights. I thought they would kick and sway too much and be a problem, but I didn't find it that hard to just peg people at long ranges. It worked really, really well. I can say nothing bad about the ABR with the suppressor in Blackout, and it's really nasty if you're going to be doing solos. It's surprisingly good at hitting people at long range too, which is the biggest problem that you're going to run into with the swordfish is that you'll probably never get more than one bullet hitting outside of close range. But even at definitely close, medium range it'll work, and even at long, maybe not extra long range, you can get 2 to 3 shots on all the time, and you can pretty much instant nuke people with headshots close quarters combat. People are just unprepared to deal with headshot damage in Blackout. They get very overconfident with their armor. So if you run into somebody relatively close quarters and shoot them in the face with the ABR, if you don't kill them instantly, depending on their health, you're going to put them in a world of hurt, and you're going to terrify them. And it is really, really effective at that. So seriously, try the ABR in Blackout if you haven't already. It's one of the best weapons in Blackout, and I think that you will have fun with it. Guys, that's all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.